Hey everybody, I hope you've had a really great week, a great first week of the Easter holidays and a really good Easter weekend. Hope you've had lots of chocolate to munch on, although not too much so that you're all feeling a bit poorly today. Make it last, because remember we're on lockdown and you never know where the next bit of chocolate's going to come from. Thankfully it's not quite that bad, is it? But Rachel is going to speak to us again now about Good Friday, and in particular, looking at the question about what does the Bible tell us about Good Friday? Why did Jesus have to die? And as she does that, she talks a lot about the choices that Jesus had. So while she's talking, or maybe afterwards at the end, you might like to have a think about what are some of the most difficult choices you have had to make in your life. Because although they're probably not going to be as difficult as the choices Jesus had to make himself, we've all had pretty tough choices to make, haven't we, at some point along the line. So do be giving that a bit of thought as you listen to what Rachel has to say now.
Today, on the Easter theme, we are going to be thinking about the question, what does the Bible say about the death of Jesus? So, why did Jesus need to die? If he's all powerful, why didn't he stop it? And to think about these questions, let's start by thinking about choices. Now, I don't know about you, but I love a good would you rather question. So, would you rather be in jail for a year or lose a year off your life? Or would you rather only be able to use a fork or only be able to use a spoon? Or would you rather have edible spaghetti hair that regrows every night or sweat maple syrup? Or would you rather be a famous director or a famous actor? Or would you rather be an amazing painter or a brilliant mathematician? For each would you rather, we have a choice to make, don't we? And sometimes the choice is easy. So, would you rather eat crisps or chocolate? Is clearly a no-brainer. Of course it's chocolate. Sometimes the choice is much harder though, or even choosing between two bad things. So would you rather be alone for the rest of your life or always be surrounded by annoying people? Well, as Jesus went towards the cross, he had a very big decision to make. And for Jesus, it wasn't just a hypothetical would you rather. It was a big real life decision with big real life consequences. And the choice Jesus had to make was this: to save himself or to save others. Let's hear the whole story from Luke's account of Jesus' life.
Two other men, both criminals, were also led out with Jesus to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he's God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God," he said, "since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." Then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Jesus answered him, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m, for the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he had said this, he breathed his last.
Did you notice that 3 times Jesus was told, If you're the Messiah, the Christ, the King of the Jews, the chosen one, then save yourself. First by the religious rulers, then by the soldiers, then by one of the criminals on the cross next to him. And that criminal adds, and save us too. Now, do you reckon this criminal really thought that Jesus was the Messiah with the power to save him? No. He was spending his last few hours of life insulting and mocking Jesus, wasn't he? It was a bit like someone who got a grade 2 in their exam mocking someone who got a grade 1, saying, "Oh, you're stupid." It's just kind of ridiculous and sad. And this criminal clearly didn't get it, because he said to Jesus, "Save yourself and me." But Jesus had a choice to make, because he couldn't save himself and save criminals. He had to choose whether to save himself or to save criminals. See, the Bible would say that we are all criminals, every one of us. Now, I hope and imagine that you haven't broken any of the laws of our country, but we have all repeatedly broken God's law. We ignore his law and instead decide how we think we should live. This is what the Bible calls sin. And the punishment for our sin is death and separation from God and all the good things that he gives. So we are all criminals, deserving of punishment. And the second criminal, who was dying next to Jesus, could see that. He said, "We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man Jesus has done nothing wrong." Jesus, in contrast to the criminals and in contrast to us, had done nothing wrong. He had always kept God's law. He had a perfect record. And Jesus knew that because he had no sin, he could jump in front of the bullet, as it were, and take the punishment for our sin in our place. Jesus had a choice to make: save himself from the cross, or save criminals, save us, from the punishment for sin. Let's look at the rest of the conversation between the second criminal and Jesus. So the second criminal said to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Somehow, this criminal had understood who Jesus was and something of what he'd come to do. Maybe he had heard about Jesus before. Maybe it was Jesus' words as he hung on the cross. Maybe it was the unnatural darkness that made him think. Whatever it was, this criminal could see that Jesus was a king, and he reached out to him, metaphorically anyway, and asked Jesus to remember him. I don't know exactly how this criminal was expecting Jesus to respond. Maybe he was desperately hoping that Jesus would show him mercy. But I think Jesus' response to this criminal are some of the most beautiful words in the whole Bible. Jesus says to this criminal, "Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." Jesus had made his choice. He was going to go through with it. He was going to take the bullet of God's punishment for us and for that criminal, so that we don't have to, so that we can spend eternity in paradise with God when we die. As Jesus hung there, how easily he could have come down and saved himself. But he stayed. He took the mockery from the people watching. He took the pain of the nails through his hands and feet and the slow suffocation. And worst of all, he took the pain of separation and punishment from God for sin. Jesus made his choice. He did not save himself so that he could save us. So hopefully the Bible's answered our questions about the death of Jesus. Jesus was all powerful, but he did not stop the cross happening because sin had to be punished. Jesus chose to save us at the cost of his own life. Now, one of my favourite movies, if you can guess what it is, has got a brilliant song in it called "Can You Feel the Love Tonight?" Now, I won't sing you a rendition now, but guys, can you feel the love tonight? As we've looked at that true story of Jesus' death on the cross, can you feel Jesus' astonishing love for you? I really hope you can. Let's pray now and say thank you to Jesus for the cross and for all that he did for us there. Jesus, we thank you so much for what you did for us that first Easter. Thank you that you chose to give up your own life to save ours, to save sinners who deserve to be punished. We thank you so much for your great love for us that is so undeserved and so massive. Please would you help us to know more of your love for us today and over the Easter weekend. Amen. Now, if you'd like to take a couple of minutes to reflect a bit more on Jesus' great love for you that he showed on the cross, then I've got a song for us to listen to. So as I said in last week's video, I'm not a great prayer, and sometimes I think songs can kind of give us the words that we don't have. So I hope this one will help us to reflect on Jesus' love and to thank him for it. But no pressure to listen if you don't want to.
Well, thank you very much to Rachel again, and I would urge you to listen to that song and, like she said, to reflect on what you've heard and what it means to you. And when you've done that, you might like to have a think about our challenge this week, which is to recreate silently an iconic movie moment. And then do send those in, and we'll have a look at those either just on the WhatsApp group, or we might be able to get them on the YouTube channel if we're lucky. Anyway, have a really good week, and we'll see you again next week. Take care. Bye.